Halloween. This is our first time doing one of these talks or streams on Halloween. We plan to do a lot of Halloween content this year, as we always do. And so we are going to get into it. We've divided up the topics. There was so much because we thought, well, let's talk professional haunts right now because that makes sense. The big theme parks are coming up. Horror Nights is, what, 5 weeks and a day from today? And then we realized as we were going on, there's like 20, and we're like, okay, well, let's cut this down some. So today what we'll do is we'll kind of talk about what we know so far from Horror Nights, Six Flags, Not Scary Farm, Oogie Boogie Bash over at Disneyland, Hollow Scream for San Diego, and I think those will be the main ones this time, and then next time we'll hit another group of them.
Yeah, basically we're going to discuss them as they're coming out and kind of go by the calendar for the release as far as which ones we're discussing today and which ones we're going to hold off on.
Yeah, so we'll go chronological order by the intro. If this is the first time tuning in, whether it's to the podcast for our audio listeners later or just in the video on the YouTube channel or live on any of them, we cover a lot of Halloween stuff. So we've covered a lot of Halloween stuff since really 2015, about 2014. Prior to 2014, I mean, you and I mostly, like as just fans, would go to Not Scary Farm Halloween night, maybe make a big deal of like adding one extra Halloween stop that year, but for us it was just kind of like, well, Halloween. And then as 2015, as we started covering things, so really 2014, we're like, let's add in some other stuff, and we covered like 9 spots that year.
And we thought that was a big year for us because it was like we did 9 things. But I think last year we broke our record, and I want to say it was
143 total stops.
I was thinking 142, so I was close. But and by stops we mean so each theme park is one stop. So even though a theme park may have 10 mazes or whatever, we count that as one stop. But we count yard displays and home haunts and professional and all those types of things. So 143 last year were our stops. So that blew out our record from before. And even though we went into the season saying we're not going to break any records, we're not going to push that hard, it just kind of happened. I don't even remember really pushing that hard. 2020 we pushed really hard because everything was about Halloween not happening and stuff. And we're like, no, we know the home haunters are going to come through. We know there's going to be a lot to see. So we broke our prior record for 2020 because we were determined just to illustrate that Halloween was happening. And then 21, we were like, let's go. And then all of a sudden we broke our record from 2020. So we experience and we cover a lot of Halloween stuff.
Yeah. And the breakdown on average in a year is about half of the stops end up being displays at homes. So home haunt displays, and then about 25% ends up being professional. That includes like a Not Scary Farm, and that includes, a Coffin Creek or something along those lines. And so those are all in that 75%. Then 15% ends up being about home haunt mazes, walkthroughs, and then it ends up being about 5% of like Halloween shows, like let's say Spooksy Boo does a Halloween show or things like that. And another 5% is immersive theater, things like Delusion or Creep LA or things of that nature. So a lot of Halloween stuff. We plan to do a lot again this year. I don't think we're trying to set any records this year, but we will be covering a whole lot of Halloween. So we thank you, and we see people popping into the live chat there, and we will definitely take questions and chat with you too as we go along. Good to see you there, Adam. Finally, Haunt Talk. So excited. We are so excited as well. Jonathan Myers, hi, my friends. Are you going to Star Trek? I wish. I really, 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 really wish we were, but unfortunately,
so we're not doing the Star Trek 2022 convention in Las Vegas.
It is one I want to get back to so badly, but it's a really bad time of year for my work schedule, and it just keeps being a really bad time of year for my work schedule. So I keep hoping maybe next year, but I hope so. Okay, so talking chronological as we're looking out about 5 weeks. Let's start out talking about the least scary and the really not scary at all of these. Is just real quick, a few things about Oogie Boogie Bash, and we're going to keep that the shortest probably of any of these because 1, the information isn't that different from past years, and 2, the tickets are totally sold out for the event. Hey there, House to Van. Good to see you in the chat there. So if you've attended Oogie Boogie Bash before, you can expect a very similar event this year to last year. You have the breakdown of some of the things there. What we will do with Oogie Boogie Bash, though, we will do a separate video that's kind of like tips on the event because we cover that one. We don't have media for that one. We buy our tickets. We try to cover the entire thing in one night. It's madness running all around. So we'll include kind of the way we handle that night, and it's not able to do everything, but it's able to do a lot of it. And so we'll do a separate video on that, but we won't bog this one down with that. But they do bring back the immersive treat trails again, which is a big part of the event. The character interactions, they bring out their special villains, and Mickey and Minnie in their Halloween costumes, etc. The decor. They talk about limited capacity admission to DCA. I mean, I think we've seen mileage varies on that, because at the end of the day, there's so few attractions in DCA that there's some nights that still things like, Radiator Springs Racer are going to be really busy. But it definitely is going to be less than, a normal Friday night or something like that. The Frightfully Fun Parade is always my favorite part of the event, I think. I mean, I love the songs. The sing-songy Halloween stuff is great, and the Frightfully Fun Parade's a lot of fun. Mickey's Trick or Treat, the live show filled with So Scary Halloween Tales. I believe that's the one in the Disney Junior stage, if I recall correctly, which I don't think saw when it debuted. I don't feel like we've seen that one. So, but it's a kids show. I mean, it's for everybody, but it's more of a kid-centric show, as is the entire event.
Yeah, I think we went for their prior show in that venue. I feel like there was one that we went to, but not. Maybe we did.
Yeah.
It seems very familiar, but Goofy and Minnie were up on stage and stuff.
If we did, there's a video on the YouTube channel, and you can see it, and we'll watch it ourselves to remind ourselves if we have or not. Clearly, if we did, it wasn't that memorable to us, though. Villains Grove is, I think, for a lot of people, like one of the highlights. That's the Redwood Creek Challenge. I like it, but I always find it a little frustrating, because it feels like it should be a walk-through haunt, and it feels like there should be some characters popping out, not like big scares, but just some fun stuff like that. And instead, it's just kind of, projections, and it's cool, but it just feels like it could be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and that's one that you have to be careful with your timing, because it's easy to just walk through and not even see the projections. Like, I think the first year, I think I did have to go through, or U-turn and go back, because I didn't even realize that there were projections of characters and stuff. And so that is one that is easy to kind of just breeze through. And it's cool because it's kind of dark and the lighting's cool and stuff. But if you actually slow down and take in the projections and stuff, then it's like, oh, there are characters in here and stuff, kind of. But yeah, agreed that it seems like they could do a lot more with that trail, because it's such a cool setup. But in the end, it's not.
And it's a tough one, because you really can't do it until it's dark, so it opens a little bit later, and everybody that's coming to the event, literally everybody, it's like one of the only things that every single person in the park wants to do, so it becomes quite messy. So the best strategy is to make sure to do it during one of the parades, when a lot of people are sucked away. But again, we'll do a separate video just for those of you that are going to Oogie Boogie Bash and want some tips on that. Carthay Circle has all their decor up. There's a commemorative keepsake of some little item you get. I mean, so much of the event is the treats and characters.
Yeah, that's a keepsake. And unlimited PhotoPass digital photos taken during the party. Yeah. So those are the keepsakes that they mention. And usually, although obviously pass holder situation is very much up in the air right now, so who knows what it'll be by the time that event comes. But in the past, there's usually some sort of keepsake that pass holders are able to get as an extra bonus there.
Real quick, then, as we kind of transition, because the event starts September 6th, it goes to October 31st. We will be on there the 6th. We'll do a bunch of videos and cover it all to our best of our ability and all of that. Real quick in the chat, Paul, hello Paul. Paul is always watching our YouTube videos and leaving awesome comments for all the haunters out there that check it out. Thank you very much for being here tonight to spend some time. Always amazed how much time you've been able to spend. The place shows wonderful things. Thank you very much for there. Renee, great to see you there as well. Hello, they're excited to hear your Halloween info. Thank you all for being there. So, last thing I think to note just on the Oogie Boogie is you can get access to the park at 3 p.m. So you're able to do some pre-Halloween stuff, but the actual event begins at 6 p.m. Okay? All right, let's transition to Horror Nights, which I think is going to be a bit bigger of a topic for a lot of people there and what we know so far. So as of this recording, I believe we have, 1, 2, 3, 4... I believe 4 of the mazes are announced. 1, 2, 3, 4, actually 5. So let's go down what's been announced so far, and then their locations as well. So Universal, go ahead.
I was going to say, so the first press release that we received on the topic was back in May, and it discusses that the Wolfman, Dracula, and the Mummy come together for the first time ever in an all-new Universal Monsters Legends Collide haunted houses as part of Horror Nights in Hollywood and Orlando.
And that one is going to be located behind the Mummy attraction. So I've been seeing that built since like, I don't know, it feels like it's been being built since like February. It's been a long build there. It's been cool to just go down the Starway and see it constantly being built there. That was also though announced at Midsummer Scream. That's when they brought Slash out on stage. Slash is doing the music for it. So the other thing that was really interesting is they said for this one that part 1 would be in Orlando, and this is like part 2. So for those that are going coast to coast, you can kind of experience the first half of these monsters colliding, and then get the second half, the finale, in Hollywood. So just kind of a neat way to break up the storyline there. But that for myself, I'm most excited about because I'm just a big Universal over the years, so I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. In the panel, if you didn't see it live or didn't want see that we posted or listen to that or whatever, but it was kind of cool because he pointed out that on the facade of that maze, he asked if anyone had caught it, but I guess the name that's on the front of it, it's basically Dracula's
card,
yeah, spelled backwards or whatever. So he pointed that out during the panel. If people hadn't noticed, I hadn't noticed. I don't know if you had noticed.
Yeah, I think we posted that.
Okay, well I didn't notice it, so it was kind of cool that he pointed it out or whatever.
Next one, a classic, Halloween.
It says John Carpenter's classic 1978 slasher film Halloween returns to stock. Halloween Horror Nights in terrifying haunted houses where guests come face to face with the merciless Michael Myers beginning September 2nd in Orlando and Hollywood.
Yeah. And
September 2nd in Orlando, September 8th in Hollywood.
I'm a huge Halloween fan. I know some people are a little burned out on Halloween at the Universal parks. I'll take Halloween every year. I listen to, the Halloween theme practically every day of the year. So Michael Myers in whatever form, any sort of, the Halloween take. I mean, not that there wouldn't be other things I might prioritize over it at this point, but I love Halloween and Michael Myers. So I'm okay with it. I'm good with it. It's not maybe the top of my excitement list for this year just because we've seen a lot of Halloween over the years, but I never get tired of Michael Myers. And that one is located over in the Curious George section. So it seems so far as the information's coming out, it looks very much like they're not going to use the Metro lot again, which I know some people really enjoy skipping that part last year because it avoids the long walk. I really like the long walk because it's like you're on the back lot, you're on the movie studio lot. I love that. But the other thing I love about it from a practical standpoint is it spreads out those massive Horror Nights crowds. I mean, Hollywood is such a small park, and so having that long walk to the Metro lot, it just spreads some of those bodies out, and I like keeping some of those. Whereas last year it felt a bit claustrophobic with the way it was, but it is what it is. It's not. It doesn't look like the direction's going that way. So this one looks like the walk that you'll make. And last year the walk was through Wizarding World. That takes you over to the Curious George area.
And then back in June, they announced that it's going to feature a double dose of terror inspired by the company regarded as a driving force in horror with the horrors of Blumhouse Haunted Houses, which bring to life Blumhouse's upcoming supernatural thriller. Well, now it's not upcoming, we've seen it, but The Black Phone and the horror comedy Freaky, the frightening event, and then the dates for the event.
So we didn't see Freaky yet. We really should see it before the opening night. We did see Black Phone. I loved Black Phone. I think the Black Phone has, the mask, the iconic Savini mask looks incredible on the poster, but I think the highlight to me was the child actors were like some of the best child actors I've ever seen. Obviously that's not going to be a big part, or I would imagine isn't going to be a memorable part of this maze though, but it was creepy and it was good. The Blumhouse ones, because they're often like two things or whatever, it's, I'd rather it just be like all Black Phone or all Freaky, but it's fine. But again, it's not on the upper end of my like excitement list, I guess, myself. What about for you?
I'm always curious to see what they do and stuff, and any new maze is cool to see. So I don't know that anything is like, I don't know that I'm super excited about any particular one. It's just awesome to be planning to go to Horror Nights, basically. So yeah, I'm not sure that one's particularly exciting for me. And then this...
The Weeknd?
Yeah. So this press release was related to... global music phenomenon and multi-award-winning artist The Weeknd collaborates with Universal Studios Horror Nights to create an all-new haunted house inspired by his record-breaking After Hours album.
Yeah. And this is the one I think that was probably least surprising for people, because The Weeknd has basically alluded at having a Horror Nights maze for many months now. I'm sure somebody in the chat knows better than I the first time that kind of was out there. But it keeps, with a trend of featuring different musical performers. People seem off the charts excited about this. The Weeknd is off the charts popular. I would imagine this one is, like such a big marketing machine for them. But I'm excited to see it. I like The Weeknd's music. I never know what they're going to do in terms of how they translate it to a maze, but I'm very curious to see it. I know there is a group that's not very excited about the idea of having those types of mazes in there where it's, musical performers, but I don't know. We'll see what it ends up being, but I've got to imagine there has not been many tie-ins that they've done that are going to create a bigger buzz than this one. I mean, Twitter was just filled with people that are like, well, I guess I'm going to Horror Nights now. I guess I'm flying to Orlando. I guess I'm flying to Hollywood, whatever it is. So that is going to be a big, big one for sure. And then there was announced at Midsummer Screen the Scarecrow the Reaping. And so that one is also, I should say, The Weeknd appears to be down in the Soundstage 29 area. So that'll be a lower lot one. Scarecrow the Reaping, this is going to be a curious joy. The Reaping, I keep saying the Reaping. This is an original one, or it ties into Orlando, but it isn't one that's based off of a movie or a TV show or anything. So that immediately makes me excited. The more original that Horror Nights does, the more excited I am. And it's not that I don't love seeing the movies, and I think a big reason why in this era you go to Horror Nights is to live the movies in a lot of ways, the horror movies. But it's just because it's rare. It's not often that we get a lot of original IP there, and so
especially
I'm excited.
Hollywood.
Yeah, especially Hollywood. Yeah, that's actually everything we're talking about here is Hollywood. But yeah, so I'm excited about that one. I think that should be fun.
Yeah, and if you didn't listen to the panel, but I think Murdy basically said that's the one that takes place during the Dust Bowl era. Am I recalling correctly? And stuff. And so during the panel, he gave us kind of a history on what the Dust Bowl is and stuff. And there was he showed us some costumes and characters and stuff. And so I think we caught all of that on the live stream. So you can go back and watch that if you want to see or hear him talk about it specifically. But it looks cool and the costumes look cool and stuff. So we'll see.
And on that note, that Midsummer Screen Horror Nights presentation was my favorite presentation that Murdy has ever done. And we've seen a lot of them from Monsterpalooza for many, many years. And a lot of times they seem a little long for what the content is. And this one did not seem that way. It felt like it was really moving, a lot of fun. So if you're interested at all in that and didn't check out that panel, you may want to. Now, he also alluded to a maze coming, and it felt very like, it was interesting because they never gave the title, because as soon as he started talking about it, he's like, well, we got another thing, and it felt very like Kevin Feige at the Marvel panel in San Diego or something, like he's going to drop another announcement right now. But he basically gave a lot of story and showed some images and then didn't give the name. But it seemed to be kind of a dark noir, kind of LA Confidential type vibe from what we saw there. So we'll see. I thought then it was probably going to be announced like Monday or something, but it hasn't been announced yet. So
yeah, I think it's like talking about murders at a particular hotel or a haunted hotel, and a lot of creepiness related to a hotel, I seem to recall. But again, it's on the live stream or it's on the channel if you want to hear him talk about it. But yeah, so no name. But
and that one cool. We don't have. I should have said the Horrors at Blumhouse. We didn't talk about the location. That is in the Waterworld area there. This unnamed one, we don't have a location for. So we'll see what happens with that. There are at least 2 other builds that we know of from riding the tram tour and things like that. In fact, when we were there last week, we saw the circus tent go up. What appeared very much like Killer Clown. That was another one over by Soundstage 29, so we know they're building something there as well. And then there's the big build in the Parisian Courtyard that's been going on forever, that every time we post anything, people respond and say it's La Llorona returning. And so we'll see if that's a very popular maze. It seems very likely in terms of the structure outside, but there's been no announcement on that. So we know at least there's 2 more mazes, maybe 3 if the noir one is not either a clown tent or the kind of building that looks like the facade from La Llorona. So
yeah,
good stuff there.
Looks kind of almost like a church facade and has like bells and stuff. So that does have kind of that
Yeah.
La Llorona sentiment, but we'll see. That hasn't
Blast
been-
from the past. We don't have really anything about scare zones, although the scare zones are usually pretty limited there. It's honestly kind of my biggest complaint about Horror Nights is I just would love them to really expand their
Just take over the park
I mean,
would
outside
be
of
nice.
line, I mean, I shouldn't say it's my biggest because there's the line issue and there's not enough shows. I mean, there's other things there that are challenging as an event, but yeah, it would just be great to have much more of the park filled with actors because it's usually very located like in that front entrance walkway to Universal Plaza and then maybe some down at the bottom. It's another thing with the loss of the Metro lot area. You know, we just don't have as much scare zones there. But that's the information we have on Horror Nights so far. And I would imagine by the next time we do this, we'll have more. So our plan on future shows is to layer in new announcements. So if we have more from Horror Nights next time, but also hit some of the other events that we're not going to get to today, like Castle Dark or Coffin Creek or, you know, Bones Gulch, etc. So, okay, so next up is Frightfest. They open just 2 days after Horror Nights. They open on the 10th. And they have given, this is at Six Flags Magic Mountain, if you're not familiar, and they have given pretty much no information except the opening date.
Yeah, basically, I searched their website. I went through our
Likewise.
old emails to make sure we didn't miss a press release or something, and I didn't see anything. But basically, their website just says Frightfest, Select Night, September 10th through October 30th. One of Los Angeles' most thrilling Halloween events, Frightfest returns with thrills by day and fright by night, featuring a bone-chilling lineup of haunted attractions. Plus, face your fears in total darkness on the park's most popular monster coasters without the lights.
Yeah. So that, for people that are watching on video, you can see it's a very small amount of information right now about Frightfest. So we would imagine it's going to be very similar to last year. I imagine there's not going to be many changes. It was kind of unfortunate that they weren't at Midsummer Scream to make some sort of appearance there and announce something, but it's just interesting on this one because it's so close and there's just no information about it yet. So we will see what happens with that, and I would imagine by the next time we do this show, we'll have some information and we'll layer that in and talk about it.
Six Flags, if you're not familiar, has gone through various changes with like management type stuff.
A lot of
and
changes
The
since
marketing
pandemic.
team's different than it
Totally
used to be,
different.
than it was for a long time, and so there's a lot of changes going on. But I can't remember the guy who seems to usually be on the panels at Midsummer, who seems to kind of run or oversee the mazes and stuff. I'm pretty sure he's still there, so I think I saw him not too long ago. So I don't know. We'll see if there are changes or if it's basically kind of what it's been in the past, where it's mostly just seems like they just kind of open the doors. But usually, of course, Frightfest is the event itself is not a hard ticket event. You can just, if you have your day pass or your annual pass, you can just go into it. But you do pay for the wristband that allows you access to the mazes. But otherwise, at some point, usually I think 7 o'clock or something like that, the lights change and the
They
monsters
usually have an
come out.
opening moment and stuff, which is really fun.
And
but
stuff. So it's not really a hard ticket item unless you want to do the maze. That part is hard ticket. So different than a lot of the other things that we experience.
yeah, it is one that I always wish, because we have Six Flags passes. We live very far from Six Flags. It really is usually like a 2.5 hour drive for us. But I always to have fun, even not paying for the mazes, just having a pass, you could just hang out as a pass holder. Scare zones, and they have a lot of really great street talent. I think particularly this year, but I think they attract a particularly young crowd, and a young crowd can be very on the monsters, and so I'm always amazed at how patient and good the monsters are on the streets at Frightfest. They always look fantastic with the Scott Ramp and the Scream team and their makeup and everything and prosthetics, but they're always so patient with a lot of sometimes some pretty rowdy customers on the streets trying to chase them down and stuff. So we'll see. Hopefully again next time we'll hopefully have more information on Frightfest. We will await that and gather it for you if it comes in or when it comes in. Then we go down to SeaWorld, Hollow Scream. This debuted in California last year. They tried to expand the Hollow Scream brand. Prior to last year, all we really knew of Hollow Scream was the one at Busch Gardens in Florida, and it was very well loved. The one in San Diego, so we had what we felt was a pretty good night there on opening night for the most part. I mean, there was definitely logistical challenges and things like that, but they definitely had mixed feelings from a lot of people as the season went on. We had several friends that went and had not such great nights there, but we had like a really good night in general. And so I'm very curious to see what happens this year with it. It does open September 16th, so it's the following weekend. It's interesting because we normally get Knott's Scary Farm the weekend after the debut of Horror Nights. This year, that's not the case. We do get Hollow Scream, and so that comes September 16th. It goes through October 31st. They have a press release,
Select nights.
but it's pretty limited in the information, actually. I mean, that's really it right there.
The highlights of basically the bullet points that they have are San Diego's largest Halloween nighttime event returns on select nights from September 16th to October 31st. More dates, more haunted houses, more scare zones, and more entertainment. Nighttime rides at SeaWorld, San Diego's newest roller coaster, Emperor, along with fan favorites Electric Eel and Journey to Atlantis. Then Halloween enthusiasts who can't wait to scream their hearts out can purchase tickets at up to 55% off during the Monster Sale through August 21st.
Then there is some information. So it says several all-new attractions this year. And so I'll just read this about the haunted house side of it. There's no turning back as guests brave dark passageways and round dimly lit corners, hoping they can avoid what's lurking in the rooms, hallways, and paths ahead. The legends are true. The fear is real. The only way to embrace the fear is to walk through all 5 haunted houses. Trembling through the original yet reimagined houses from the inaugural year of the fear, fans will quickly have a flashback of the nightmares caused from Nightmare Experiment and the medical experiments gone wrong, the sound of slicing from Simon the Butch and his crew at Simon's Slaughterhouse, and the slew of spirits and mortals at Deathwater Bayou. The second year of the event adds 2 all-new haunted houses to the list for thrill seekers to choose from. It hints at hiding from outsiders beyond and coming face-to-face with freakish and creepy fools. So it's just interesting because we know then there's going to be 5 mazes, which is cool, but it was very interesting that they left out the 2 new ones, which maybe it's because they have a big splash coming and they're going to build that anticipation, but it was just kind of interesting. But Deathwater Bayou, like, I really, really enjoyed Deathwater Bayou. I mean, I had fun with all their haunted houses there myself, but Deathwater Bayou particularly. And we have videos of those on our channel if you're interested in any of those things. Then it says new scare zones. So it says with 6 scare zones throughout the park, there's even less room to hide. Immersive terrors at every turn, and guests should stay alert and be prepared for anything with the uncertainty of what's waiting up ahead and creeping up behind. Walking through the pathways are creepy dolls at the Deadly Toys Zone. Actors, but very good actors. The next one, La Llorona, which they're screaming. I don't know how any of them lasted through the event because opening night, their screams were like blood-curdling. And lastly, sinister monsters that lurk in the forest at the haunting zones. The scares are heightened this year with 2 all-new scare zones that are predicted to be soul-wrenching and full of freakish laughs that will inflict more terror upon the year's guests. So, sounds like, freakish laughs, probably like a clown scare zone or something like that. But again, they've kind of left that blank, so we're not sure when that's going to be announced or how that's going to be announced. New Frightful show and entertainment. Before the scares begin, a sinister scaremony will kick off the event every evening with music and immersive introductions of the foul creatures that call Hollow Scream home. Even amid so much mayhem, that night is just beginning. New to the event this year, guests will be mesmerized by a thrilling and high-energy live show. Between the shrills and chills, attendees can also find DJs and party zones that are perfect for a dance break between frights. So they had a great show that we saw.
The version that we saw
was long. It was like 45 minutes. We have that video on the YouTube channel. If you want to check it. It was like 45 minutes of crazy acrobatics and dancing.
That was a show that friends went later, and it seemed to be a very, very different experience for them. So I think for this year, for me, I hope that they are able to hire enough talent, enough staffing to really fill the park, because even on the opening night, we kind of chalked it up, well, they're still hiring and stuff, and so that's why. But it seems like the talent lessened, at least based on what people told us that went later. So hopefully they're able to staff it properly and stuff, because it had a lot of potential. That park, even just turning off the lights, is pretty creepy and stuff with some and stuff. So we had a good time with it, but again, not everybody that we know did and stuff. So hopefully there are changes and improvements this year.
The last event I remember like that was WB's Horror Made Here, where we heard like very different feelings about it. Like, we had a really good night, and then we had other friends that had really good nights, and then we had other friends that were like had a really rough night. So it just seemed to vary a lot. But again, with labor shortages and those continue, they I think got hit and they cut some of their hours. I know that was a complaint some had that they like reduced hours on some of the nights and that wasn't clear. And so, maybe they cut it back from closing at midnight to 11 on some nights and people drove down there. So
and actually
we'll
another
see.
thing was the food. So last year there weren't really like the restaurants weren't
Oh,
open and
food
stuff.
was an issue, yeah.
There was like one or two food stands that you could mostly buy beverages, but there was a little bit of food available. Again, we were there as press, so we had like a buffet and stuff. So it didn't occur to us until other people pointed it out later that they didn't have their restaurants open, they didn't have their counter service open, there just wasn't food available. So hopefully that changes, but if not, then if you're going, then maybe grab your food ahead of time, have dinner before you get to the park, because we don't know what that food situation is going to be this year either. So.
All right, so then let's move over to where we're at. We're on the streets of Ghost Town here at Knott's. The fog has not rolled in yet, but it will roll in this year on September 22nd. So we're about 7 weeks out from that. They mimicked what they did last year with the series of video releases. So every Wednesday they are releasing more information about the event. I know myself and I think everybody we know much preferred the pass holder event that they used to do or showing up at Midsummer Scream, but the current situation is the video format. So each week that they're kind of rolling out that information. Week number 1, we won't even worry. I guess we'll do it maybe in a reverse order here. So let's talk about the shows first. So the shows that are returning or a little bit different. So on the main stage in the Calico Park or Calico stage there, you've got Carnival du Grotesque. And they've got, their video with all sorts of footage of what these things look like, but it seems like it's going to be kind of a return to more of a sideshow element there with fire eaters and the, different types of carnival type actors there. Conjurer's Dark Magic, which I would imagine that's going to return to the Birdcage Theater there, which is more smaller, kind of up-close magic type of performances. Puppet Up Uncensored returns for, what is this, the 3rd year now, to the, formerly Schultz Theater, now the Walter Knott Theater, so a humorous Henson puppet show there. And then Into the Fog, a Scary Farm tribute art show, and that's always a highlight to me, is to see the artwork that comes in, that it just adds so much merchandise to the Scary Farm line of sales original art. If you don't follow already, if you're a Scary Farm fan, you probably already follow, but Kenzie_Crow on Instagram, KENZIE, and then _Crow, she posted what her art is for this year for Into the Fog, and so that gives you really a sense of the type of artwork that shows up, because it was as soon as she posted, I was like, this is spectacular, because it's basically it's as if it's a page from kind of this guide to monsters, and you see the Catawampus monster in there and stuff. It's just it's so fantastic to see what the artists come up with and how they interpret Scary Farm. And this is the 49th anniversary, so next year is the 50th, so I know ourselves as well as all these artists are really excited, and you feel like the creative juices are just pumping more and more as we get closer and closer to that big 50th in 2023. But so those are the shows. So it seems the drums are not returning to Camp Snoopy unless they are, or the Hollow as they call it at night, unless that's going to be a surprise thing. One of the things that Knott has added over the years, which has been really great, is a lot of little kind of surprise performances and impromptu things that are not on the schedule, and that has been fantastic, especially because they have the Scary Farm Pass, so pass holders can come each night and realize new things going on in various scare zones. So just because it's not been officially announced doesn't mean it's not going to happen, or it doesn't mean that there might not be some new show elements that we don't know about. There's the last couple of years, there's things we're finding about a couple days after the event, that we covered, and we're like, wait, that's going on over there. So it's one of the things that is really exciting about Scary Farm opening night, is that there's going to be little tricks and treats that appear maybe later that you find after the event.
Yeah, and just a quick thing, so in mentioning the passes, it is our understanding that they've already sold out of the season pass for Scary Farm. So
for 22, yeah.
For 22. So if you haven't gotten those, unfortunately it's too late for that. But for next year, be sure and get it as early as possible, as soon as you see it, because for the last 2 Scary Farms, it feels a little short. The window's been fairly small, fairly short to be able to buy those things. So definitely for next year, buy it as early as possible. And if that's an interest to you, we did get ours as soon as we were able to. So So that's one that we pay, even though we're ambassadors and stuff. The Scary Farm Pass, we cover ourselves. So.
Yeah, and it's always been such a great value. So, okay, so scare zones, no surprises in the scare zone area. We've got the Hollow returning to Camp Snoopy area, the Goring 20s coming back for its sophomore year, Forsaken Lake, Carnival, and then Ghost Town Street. So no big surprises there. I don't think we assumed that there'd be any differences. We love all those zones, had so much fun in all those zones. The Goring 20s was such a different type of zone with so many, talk about performances, there were so many impromptu show moments over there that it felt like you could just sit in that scare zone every night and be entertained with all different types of entertainment that was not in the app, it wasn't in a show guide, it was just meant to be there for you to kind of stumble upon in kind of a speakeasy type of fashion, which was perfectly fitting. But I mean, one of my favorite things to do in general on any night of the year is just come and hang out in scare zones, and they do such a great job here with all of them. So those are all returning. Then on our mazes, so we have the returning mazes, Pumpkin Eater, Origins, Dark Ride, Dark Entities, Mesmer, The Depths, and Waxworks. So those are the returners. Origins has started build not too far from where we're at. We've posted some of that on social media. It's exciting to see the walls go up and get back to the Curse of Calico there. Pumpkin Eater, it stays up to some degree all year. You kind of always look behind the attractions over there in Camp Snoopy and see the big, jack-o'-lantern face there. Mesmer, they kept that one tent up, and more of the tents are up now, so that's all kind of there, and you can see it. The Depths, I call him the Mariner, the fisherman, or whatever we want to call him, he's been moved out. He was moved out, I think, one day different than he was in 22 or 21. But long story short, he's out there, so when you're walking in, if you're coming from like the hotel, you just see that, that scary guy sitting out there. And Dark Entities we can't see. Dark Ride we've not seen. The lumber usually starts to show up, like if you go up Sky Cabin, you can see down into that. Then we know that there's at least 2 others coming because you can see them pretty easily. If you go down past Ghost Rider into the, what's that called, the Gold Mine Trail now, or whatever that area, I mean, you literally can just walk right up and kind of like look under the fence, and the employees don't seem to mind, and you see a massive build at the location of what was Paranormal Inc.
Right.
It looks huge, like really, like it's taking up all of the old queue space in front of it. So a big maze coming there. And then if you go up Sky Cabin, or if you step to the left of Mystery Lodge, you can see the build behind Mystery Lodge where Infected used to be. And so something's coming there as well. So those are 2 additions to the lineup. So all the mazes that are returning for Scary Farm, I know I enjoyed the ones that have left in the last few years as well. It's been a long time since there have been any mazes that I just didn't enjoy at Knott's, and so that's obviously I feel very fortunate for that. But I am excited, of course, to see the 2 new ones and see what they are and kind of how Knott's proceeds, and especially now 2 new mazes coming the year before the 50th anniversary, because everybody knows the 50th is a big deal. Even we, at the end of last year, we were fortunate to be able to, or we were asked to come do a podcast with Eric Nix, and from the entertainment, producer, and he talked about, when I asked, what are you excited about? And we were thinking what's coming up, Boysenberry Festival, or one of these things. This was in, December or November last year?
I think November.
And he was like, Scary Farm 50th anniversary was the thing he was most excited about. People at Knott's, not that people aren't thinking a lot about this year's, but a lot of people are thinking about the 50th. So it's just exciting to get 2 new mazes the year before the 50th. I think that adds to the excitement of what the 50th might be. And we'll see. We'll be back here in Ghost Town recording for the 50th this time next year probably, and we'll see what they actually announce there. But I believe tickets go on sale for Scary Farm on the 15th. And I know they've said we'd have a full press release of all the info by the 15th, whatever they're going to release. So whenever we do our next show, if it's somewhere in between there or after that, we'll have that information. Then we can talk about the exact specifics of what we know about the mazes. And we will be doing, with Horror Nights and Scary Farm, we will be doing videos of build. We always do that. People seem to enjoy seeing the mazes come together. We might integrate doing some live videos of that because people seem to like the live stuff a lot. So maybe we'll just do some Halloween talks wandering the parks, and different than this type where this is more of a podcast format, but somewhere maybe I'll just take you on a tour of the park as the skeletons are going up and things like that, and talk about what we're seeing from day to day here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's kind of crazy to me how soon all this stuff is coming up, and then obviously D23 fits in there as well, and so there's a lot of stuff. We have a few weeks kind of slower stuff where we don't have a ton of stuff coming out or that we're covering like big shows, but then there's the Halloween season is so close. It's both exciting and always a little overwhelming for me as we get nearer. Let's see, going to the chat. Victor in Boxes of World said, I'm excited for the Calico Candy Mine ride this year. I'm such a huge fan of it. I even know the song lyrics.
That's awesome. We rode that very few times, and I wish, because the song was very catchy and cool. Actually, I need to go back and like watch our video or someone else's video to get that in my head, because that's a good call. It's something I kind of had forgotten about a little bit.
Yeah, I think for me, I feel like we only wrote it like early in the run, and I feel like we heard that there were additions as it went, or I don't remember what, but I feel like I didn't fully appreciate the CMR and
we
stuff.
Need to.
So definitely we'll have to do that.
Yeah, good call. Thanks for the reminder. And on that note, also, Victor, thanks for throwing that in there too, because Spooky Farm is going to be coming up a little bit after that. It's a couple weeks after, I think, or something. But we'll talk about that as we'll talk about that as we have more information on that as well. Also, as we're looking at the chat, I mean, we'll have Castle Dark that we'll talk about in future episodes. Delusions, Shacktoberfest, LA Haunted Hayride, but like there's a lot that we'll be talking about. We'll have to make some decisions. Maybe we'll just talk about ones that we normally cover, because I know we're not going to be able to get to all the professional ones in SoCal. And then we'll also talk about home haunts at some point. Once things are really going and we know all that stuff, we can talk about some home haunts that we'll recommend to check out as well, hopefully. So is it Alex? Oops. We lost the chat there for a second. Alex saying your channel's my favorite year-round, but especially during haunt season because you have the best coverage of it. Thank you very, very much. Very kind. Also from Alex, Into the Fog is fantastic. I have a few pieces from Kenzie. We have a lot of pieces as well. Whatever season it seems, because her work always has a little bit of a haunt vibe to it, and I always love that. What was a maze you didn't enjoy at Knott's? That's a good question. That's a great question. I've never thought of that.
I feel like since we've been coming more, and since the pass has been a thing, which we got like is the first year that it was available, so that
I think that was 2014, I think, yeah.
I feel like I've enjoyed all the mazes since then to varying degrees. Like if I didn't love them at first, then they kind of grew on me and stuff, and then prior to that, I feel like there probably were some, but because we would come just like one night each year, it's hard for me to like remember those. But I remember, I don't even know if it was really a maze, but kind of like a spider one or something that like drops spider webs or something. Oh, of course,
yeah, that was a long time ago. Yeah, in Fiesta.
That was kind of frustrating because it was a long line, and then you went in, and then there wasn't much to do but stand around and have like spider webs dropped on you or something. I think that was a thing, and I don't remember what that was called. But that kind of comes to mind as one that I didn't love but it's probably one that if I had done multiple times, I would have appreciated more. But at the time, I was just kind of like, why did we wait in line for this? But again, that was so long ago, I don't really remember the specifics or anything like that.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's a quirk of mine that Carmel knows very well, is I delete things very quickly from my memory. So I delete all non-essential information, and usually anything negative is non-essential information. So I'm very bad with a lot of information, to be honest. Like, it just disappears from my head because it's like somehow it's like, well, I'm not interested in that, and it deletes. So I'm sure there's a list of mazes in our 20-some years of Scary Farm that I don't like, but I think they've all been deleted. I'd need to like go back and watch videos of them again or something like that. There's a question from Antonis, is it, about have you guys been to HHN Halloween? Yes, we've been every year for quite some time and covering it, and we'll be there opening night covering it this year.
We've never been to Orlando.
We have not been to Orlando.
We had plane tickets the last 2 years.
2020 and 21 we had tickets, yeah.
But for this, because of the state of the world and different things happening, we weren't able to actually use those tickets. And I don't think we're going to be making it out this year either, because again, this one's more related to the financial aspect.
Yeah, the combination of the price of travel right now and the very limited, like we would only be able to be there like 2 days with my work in October. So flights are really expensive right now for just 2 days of being out there. So unfortunately, hopefully next year, without D23 cutting into the finances as well, we'll be able to make it happen, because I am very, very consumed with the idea of making it happen now that we were like so close to going. But this year with D23 in the middle of it, it's pretty crazy because D23 Expo, I know that's a whole different topic. That's not a Halloween thing, but that is a big part of like coverage for us. Like people love our coverage of D23 Expo, or at least we get a lot of traction off of it. And it's right in the middle of all this Halloween stuff. And so, yeah, so Orlando hopefully next year, but it doesn't look currently like it's a plan this
At
year.
Hollywood, we've done several times, and we've done like
we usually try to go
videos
2 times a year for
tips
that one.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I imagine we'll probably do that again this year.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we've done like Sean has done in particular, tip videos of how to do it and try to get everything done if you don't do the front of the line and stuff.
Well, because we do it like Scary Farm, we're fortunate to be able to do it as media, which is a whole different thing. But then we also do it as fans and like don't have front of the line. Like we never buy front of the line for anything. I mean, it's amazing, but it's just expensive. So when we're covering things not as media, it's like, well, we just try to do the stuff as strategically as possible. So yeah, we'll have some stuff with that. I mean, we'll definitely put out as much content as we can to help people with these events because we know, but we know people approach them differently too. And so some people do go all out and get the front of the lines and stuff like that, and that's fantastic. I mean, if you can get it, that's always the way to go for sure. So any other questions from our live audience before we start to round things out here? We will definitely be coming back with more talk on this. As I said, there's a lot of information. For example, all the 13th floor stuff, we don't have opening dates for yet. So, we know we'll be talking about that. We do have some information about them from Midsummer, but those are a little bit later in September. But there's a whole list of, a very long list here that we'll probably not have time to get to all of. And then again, we'll transition and talk about some of those home haunts. There are a lot of home haunt displays and walkthroughs that are epic, and we just can't not do them every year. But also there's a lot of fun surprises out there, and I think that's something we should try to, if we can find the time, talk about. There's been a lot of incredible surprises in places, and these are haunters that do incredible work, but they don't have social media, they don't advertise it, and a lot of times because they just do it for the kids in the neighborhood and they don't necessarily brand it or anything like that. Okay, a couple more questions, Alex. On the flip side, what was a Knott's Maze you really enjoyed? Top 3. So we did do our top 3 with Ted, or maybe it was our top 5 with Ted during the pandemic when we were doing those live shows and like locked in our houses and stuff. I don't remember what I put at the time, but I'll go off the top of my head real quick while you think here. Trick or Treat and Origins are like, to me, those two are kind of in a different tier. I think Origins is maybe its own tier, and then Trick or Treat is the next tier in terms of like, I just have so much like emotional attachment to them. And then I'd say Dark Ride is the other one because I just love those themes so much. I think as Halloween fans, it's always interesting as Halloween fans, and if you're listening to this, you're definitely a Halloween fan. We all have like different things that we're really into. Like, so for me, I'm really into like classic Halloween, like blow molds, but I'm also into like old abandoned theme parks, and so there's some things, the masks in the hall in Trick or Treat, and the history and the Green Witch and in Calico and Origins. Those are things that I find intoxicating, and those 3 mazes, I wish they would never leave. Like I wish they were just grandfathered into always do that.
And then he followed up that Alex asked if it was the original Trick or Treat or the lights out version.
I myself the original, but I love the lights out version too. But I'm a little partial just to the original. I think just because of the nostalgia. I think.
Yeah, and I think it's tough because it's like they are kind of new. Well, Trick or Treat isn't new. Obviously, it's not even here anymore. But the Trick or Treat, basically the same 3 I think were what came to mind for me. Like Dark Ride, I loved like from the first time we went through it and stuff. It was just so fun and creative and stuff. And Origins, I love how it embraces the history of Scary Farm so much and the different stories. And then Trick or Treat again with more that classic feel. But I don't know if it's because they're more recent that they come to mind quicker, but I think those are at this point what comes to mind.
I thought you had Tooth Fairy really high in Black Magic too.
Well, Tooth Fairy I enjoyed quite a bit. I mean, I enjoyed lots of them, but the top 3, I mean, Dark Ride is like, when the question was asked, that was the first one that popped into my head. Yeah. But then, of course, Origins and Trick or Treat. But yeah, I love Tooth Fairy. I enjoyed Waxworks. I tend to like Daniel Miller's designs quite a bit. I don't know. Obviously, Infected is cool in its own way.
Yeah,
and
Infected
stuff.
was a game changer. Yeah. 2014 Infected particularly was like, I'm probably 2014 Infected is like an all time because that was, there was, though, again, so when we did the time traveling episodes with Ted in the pandemic, I don't remember what our answers were at that time, but they are on our YouTube channel as well. And those are ones we actually had time because we mapped that out with Ted and we took a lot of time to kind of think on it. Paul jumps back in. Have you ever felt like that you did not want to video an event because you thought you would have a better time? That is a big thing for Carmel, particularly.
I really struggle when I'm filming something, whether it's a panel or an event or an activity. When I'm filming it, it's tough for me to take in what's going on out or actually going on in front of me versus what's on the camera because I'm trying to, keep the camera steady. Or I'm trying to focus on what's there. So, yes, which is also part of why we try to do things multiple times when it is something that we cover. We can't always. I mean, last year for Horror Nights, we only did it once. And so Horror Nights in particular is challenging because as press, we only get front of the line once per maze, and so we use that one time to take photos and stuff, and so it's tough to take it in because then by the time we're done with that, it's tough to get in a long hour-long line or 2-hour-long line for anything. So yeah, definitely covering stuff for me in particular is kind of challenging. For Sean, though, he's much more able to multitask, so I don't know that it really impacts you too much.
Well, it does, though, stuff. But no, like you said, like Horror Nights, it's a pain. Oogie Boogie is a pain in there because it's like we only have the one night there and it's very limited time and it's pricey and so you just want to enjoy it and you only have that one time. But the things like the home haunt world, like the home haunters usually want like good video, so they'll be like, we'll go through once and enjoy it and then we know where the scares are coming from so we can frame the shots. But like Horror Nights is a tough one because like we're taking video up to like the right and then the scare comes from the left, and so it's hard to kind of get the everything in there. So there are definitely times that we should just kind of enjoy it, but we try to be consistent with whether we're covering comic cons or covering haunts, of like that kind of whirling vortex of trying to like gather up as much content and then sharing it with people that want it. So we kind of try to block out, I at least try to block out like the inconvenience sometimes and just try to treat it all the same. The other part of that is signal. When signal is good, it's so much easier, and just like when signal's bad, there's many points where I feel like throwing my phone like against a wall or something because it gets really frustrating. There are many times at events, like just not too long ago at Monster Palooza, where like I literally have to walk a half a mile away from the convention center to upload a video, and then it's like, wow, I'm losing all this time. Or at Midsummer, I mean, we paid the extra money, we promised people that we would do like a live stream of the Hall of Shadows, then we couldn't get video. I almost destroyed my phone many times at Midsummer the last weekend because I was just getting so frustrated by it. So, but that's a great question, Paul, because that is a big topic for us.
No, we've never seen, or I've never seen, I don't think,
a
fight.
Antonio, have we seen a fight? He's been going since 2010 to HHN. Have we ever seen a fight? I have not, no. There's been a lot of fights in general in the theme park world. Disney World particularly is having a lot of them, but we've not been, as much as we go to theme parks, it's kind of surprising, but no. Alex says, I completely agree with your guys' top picks. Seriously, some great mazes. Black Magic's facade with the projection mapping was incredible. I miss Black Magic so much. I wish there was a place that the mazes could go retire and like never be disassembled and destroyed and gone. I think Knott's should really utilize projection mapping more. Love when they do, and love with all the places. Adam Walsh, is there a Scary Farm preview event this year? There is not. Very, very sadly, it really was one of our favorite things of the year, and I know it is for a lot of people, or was for a lot of people, but yeah, kind of worrying that that's never coming back at this point, now that it's been a few years with the video, because this year, it's like if it was going to come back, it feels like this was the year to come back. They're barely using the Walter Knott Theater with just the very limited showings of the DJ. Seems like that's not in the plans right now. I hope that changes, but it doesn't seem to be right now.
That's very unfortunate. I think the pass holders loved it. It helped us feel appreciated and stuff, and yeah, it's just not happening
right now.
So
Renee, do you guys trick or treat at Oogie Boogie, and what's your favorite candy? We do trick or treat, 100%.
I love all the candy that they give us. A favorite candy. We had this conversation not too long ago. I think Ted was part of that conversation, and some other friends and stuff. And for me, the candy, it really just kind of depends.
I took notes. You said
of course
you said Snickers at the time.
Okay, yeah. I guess if I had to pick one candy, Snickers is probably going to be it because it has the different textures and the different flavors mixed in and stuff. But yeah, if you are going to Oogie Boogie's and you've never been, do bring like a big bag, like maybe the what reusable bags and stuff, because you do get a lot of candy if you want the candy. Obviously, if you don't and you don't want to do the trick-or-treat trails, then you don't need to worry about that. But if you do and you want the candy, yeah, I love that we leave with like this big bag full of candy and stuff. And we could get more, but with it just being the two of us and stuff, we don't usually.
It lasts a long time.
Yeah, he ends up taking it to work quite a bit for the kids and stuff, so.
And mine is Kit Kat and peanut butter cups. I love, love, love both of those. I think at Oogie Boogie, if I recall correctly, they really don't do Reese's peanut butter cups anymore. If I recall, I feel like there's still Kit Kats in 21. I may be off, but those are the two I'm always kind of lunging for if I have the choice amongst anything else.
I also, by the way, at Oogie Boogie, appreciate that they mix in like apples and carrots and stuff because I do like having like a change of flavor, not having just pure sweets that night. But so I do appreciate that as well. So yeah, I love the trick-or-treating at Oogie Boogie's.
And then Adam asked, do you guys think the Scary Farm Pass will go on sale or just an add-on for season passes? So for 22, I think we're done with them. I don't think we'll see anything else. For 23, I kind of think they're just going to be an add-on to passes. That's my thought. I know, at least for us, like the second it comes out, we're going to like buy it that day because it just seems like it's getting less and less each year. Now there has been a lot of pent-up demand, we know, but yeah, I think we'll do that right away. Antonis, what was your favorite maze at HN Hollywood 21? For me, it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974. That was a lot of fun. Texas Chainsaw was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think for me it was The Bride of Frankenstein.
It was for me as well.
I loved the look and all the soft tones and all the female characters and stuff I thought were really cool. So that was for me.
And the music was great. Like it felt like, because I think we were able to do that one twice that night. Because I think once it had a short line and once was with our front of the line that night. But the music was great. It just seemed like it was really hard to hear the first time we went through, and then it felt like the second time maybe they had adjusted it or something like that. But it just felt like it was so much easier to hear it the second time through, and really loved it. It was really, really fantastic. So I think really every year that they've done a Universal Monsters maze, that may have ended up being my favorite. Although, when was Killer Clowns? I forget what year was that. Was that 2018 or was that 2019 or was that? I don't even remember at this point. But I really love Killer Clowns. Killer Clowns sticks with me. I have several like videos on my phone that every once in a while I'll go back and watch, like the dinosaur, the shadow puppet scene and stuff like that. I love those. Alex, do you think Invasion of Terror, I think that was the name, show will incorporate into the new maze coming to Mystery Lodge location? That seems like a very good guess, a very possible. I mean, that show is a lot of fun. There is, in the magic shop, they sell Scary Farm stuff there year round in general, t-shirts. Like, they don't put them on discount anymore. They just kind of sell them. But as of today, they rearranged a bunch of stuff and added a bunch of, like, I don't want to say Halloween, but more like goth-centric purses. And they've had some of the, like, not the Necronomicon, but kind of like the book, and they've added a lot more of those, and you're like, I wonder. So stranger things have happened for sure. So excited to see what is over there. And the show not being there, I guess we should have mentioned that. Now they said that, like, that was a show last year that we enjoyed having too. It was nice. Possessed still to me is like the ultimate show. Was that 2013 or 2014 from over in that Mystery Lodge area? That was so fantastic. And we have video of that on our channel if anybody missed out on that. That was a great exorcism show in the Mystery Lodge. But yeah, that's a show that's not over there too. So that's interesting. I guess I was just in my head like, well, they're using the area, but it is a lost show. So maybe there'll be some other small show somewhere else that pops up to take. So last call for questions.
And that being said, I think there should be a playlist if there isn't already shortly for our Halloween stuff. And then so go there, and obviously we have 2019 videos of most of the things we discussed today. So if you want to take a look at what it was for 2021, you can take a look there. So thank you for joining us
on the Ghost Town streets, and we look forward to bringing you to the parks and to all sorts of Halloween events this Halloween season. So I watched your Possessed video a whole bunch of times in the past. It was great. Thank you so much. It was Wangs 00. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up here. Until next time, we'll see you in line somewhere.
Good night, everybody.